Welcome back to the APSA Grand Tour. This is the second session, and this week we're focused on East Asia, and we'll be taking our virtual super yacht to motor yacht APSA to visit Japan, Taiwan, and Hong Kong. We have 5 panelists this week. There's Yuen, Colin Dawson, Nigel Beatty, Captain Brackley, and Mike Simpson. First off is Yuen, who is on the committee of APSA, and he's a long-term member, and he's also runs a company, a yacht management company in Hong Kong, Lodestone Yachts. So Joe's going to tell us a bit about the role of Hong Kong and APSA and the membership. Joe, over to you.
Good day to everyone. I'm Joe Yuen. Happy 10th anniversary to APSA. So first, I would like to welcome everyone to the APSA Grand Tour, episode 2. So today we continue our voyage on motor yacht APSA to the Far East. Before Susie introduces all the panelists, I would like to speak a bit about Hong Kong and how the city is significant to the marine industry and APSA. So first, Hong Kong makes up the core membership for APSA. So with 24 of 56 members based in Hong Kong, so it's nearly 40% of the membership. And the city has a long history of boating cultures, and we used to host 1 to 2 yacht shows a year. This gave buyers and yacht dealers from nearby countries like China, Taiwan, Philippines, Vietnam, and Cambodia the exposure to yachts without having to travel to shows in America and in Europe. And third, Hong Kong has the marine infrastructure and repaired dockyards for visiting super yachts, and also immigration visa-free schemes for most nationalities to enter for 14 to 90 days. And as for cruising in Hong Kong, I'll let Mike Simpson talk about this on his session. And these are the key points on how Hong Kong and the region has benefited from the yacht and super yacht industry. And finally, APSA is here to promote the APAC region and provide a platform for members to grow the business and the industry. So thank you. Pass it over back to Susie and the panelists.
Thank you, Joe. And now we turn to Colin Dawson, who's a yacht insurance broker, and he founded Expat Marine. Colin was one of the founding members of APSA and also the first chairman of APSA. He did that for 5 years before Nigel took the helm. He's going to tell us some of the history of APSA and how APSA was born. Colin, over to you.
Thank you, Susie, and welcome again to everyone to this session. The Asia Pacific has always been a mecca for anyone wanting to cruise long distances, a much more old-fashioned style of being able to be on your own in bays and beautiful stretches of coastline. And for decades, it was the Caribbean and the Mediterranean that were the key focus points of the super yacht industry. And Asia Pacific was really kind of missing out, apart from those who were brave enough to venture further afield. It became very clear that in order to promote the region, we needed one unit really with one voice that could speak on behalf of countries and companies in the Asia Pacific. And at the 2010 Super Yacht Conference in Singapore, there was a wide call from all the delegates that we really needed to do something about this. Probably with 1 or 2 glasses of wine too many, YP, Loke, Gareth, Twist, and myself late that evening decided that we would take this on and we would create the Asia Pacific Super Yacht Association. We kind of semi-announced that at the conference, and then we very quickly brought Jean-Jacques Levine and Simon Turner on board with their experience, JJ's experience with the Singapore Super Yacht Association, and Garen Simon's experience with being chairman of the conference. Obviously, there are a lot of contacts there and a lot of experience as to how we should go forwards with this. Initially, the association was going to be an association of associations, trying to bring each country's associations together to try and speak with one voice. But we quickly realized that wasn't going to work. Firstly, it was very political. Secondly, we realized that associations have very little money. So that certainly meant if we were an association of associations, we weren't going to have any money. And thirdly, there weren't actually that many countries that had yachting associations, particularly countries that were going to be up and coming in the region, such as Cambodia and Laos, etc., Vietnam, and many other countries, particularly islands in the Pacific. So it would have been a very one-sided weight to the more popular, the larger countries in the region. So we set about putting something together that could involve the industry, involve owners, and involve associations through the region. And we were determined that we were going to get this set up absolutely properly so we could launch and run with the program. It took a year to get set up, and then we eventually launched in April 2011. We very quickly started talking to countries about their visa requirements, the charter issues, and I seem to remember that we initiated the program in Thailand to talk about loosening restrictions on charter yachts, which other people then took on, and I think nowadays that's a lot more successful than it has been in years gone by. I'm really pleased that the association has grown from what we started off as a very small group of people really going around to yacht shows around the world and conferences talking about the region, to the number of members we've got now and the committee that is in place now. Certainly APSA is on the map. It's certainly something that is talked about all over the world, and I think genuinely we can pat ourselves on the back as a whole association to say that we've actually really pushed the Asia Pacific as a cruising destination, and that can be really clearly seen by the number of super yachts both visiting Asia, number of super yachts being bought by people in Asia, being cruised all over the world, and the charter industry, how it's growing. And personally, I'm very happy that the baton was passed to Nigel in 2015, 2016, and it's good to see APSA going from strength to strength. Susie, back to you.
Thank you very much, Colin. And you're right, the growth of the boating and the associations in the region has been quite dramatic in recent times. So it's good to see there is progress there. I'd like to introduce Nigel Beatty now, because our journey across with the Motor Yacht APSA is going from the Pacific to Japan. Nigel is the current chairman of APSA, and he knows the super yacht industry well. Starting in the Royal Navy, he moved into the yachting world and started as a super yacht captain, working on both charter and private yachts. Nigel moved on shore in 2004 and now runs several super yacht businesses, including Super Yacht Logistics Japan. Nigel's going to show us why we should all go cruising in Japan. Over to you, Nigel.
Hi, everybody. I guess you can hear me okay. My name's Nigel, as Susie just said. I'm here in Japan. Good evening. I want to give you guys a few facts about Japan. A lot of people know that we're over here somewhere in the east. They don't know the geography or the facts. So I just wanted to throw a few facts at you and wow you a little bit about Japan. Japan has approximately 127 million people living here. It's the world's third largest economy. North to south, we're about 3,000 kilometers, 1,620 nautical miles for the seafarers. Geographically, 24 degrees north to about 45 degrees north. And I'll go over some geographical comparisons a little later on. We've got just under 7,000 islands in the archipelago. The coastline is actually 50% more than the United States and 15% more than Australia. So we have a lot of cruising here, a lot of cruising. It's safe and it's very clean. So Tokyo's dominated with about half the population living in urban areas, and the biggest city, in fact, the biggest urban area in the world is Greater Tokyo with 39 million people living there. If Tokyo was a country, it would be the 8th largest economy on the planet. So it's a massive area. It's got more Michelin stars than Paris, London, and New York combined. It's got an ultra modern infrastructure with a 2,600-year-old history, which is intermingled within it. And there's also the big, also megalopolises of Greater Osaka, which is over 20 million people, and Greater Nagoya, which is over 10 million people, and various others around the country. So I thought it'd be good to do some geographical comparisons so you understand. People have cruised in Europe, cruised around Australia and New Zealand, and cruised over in the States. So I did some geographical comparisons. This is where Japan would lie if it was mapped over Europe. And actually central Japan, we've got sort of a Mediterranean climate. We've got olive groves and things like that. So wine regions. And so you can see where it will lie. And then this is more comparable with the weather systems we would get in Japan. So I know a lot of people here have cruised the eastern seaboard of the United States down through the Bahamas into the Caribbean. If you were to take the top of Japan, we would be right up in that fun cruising area, the Bay of Fundy, north of Halifax, Nova Scotia, if anyone's been up that way. The middle of Japan would be somewhere around the Carolinas, and then down, all the way down to maybe the Exumas in the Bahamas. Fabulous cruising ground down there in the Bahamas, but very similar weather conditions down there. And then if we were to switch Japan upside down and take it down under and lay it off next to Australia and New Zealand, we would sit like this. So the northern part of Japan would be somewhere around Dunedin in New Zealand in the South Island. And then the southernmost island of Japan, Ishigaki, would be right up by Gladstone, Queensland. So we also have the same sort of climatic situations as those places. And getting there by yacht. So I did this graphic actually for when I did a presentation at the Australian conference, but there's lots of runs up from Australia, especially. We've had some yachts this year coming up from Australia, going up to Papua New Guinea, through Papua New Guinea, up through the Caroline Islands, through Guam, to Ogasawara, which is the first point of entry, and then Ogasawara up to Yokohama. The last yacht that did it was a little expedition yacht, and they did it in about 21 days, and it was flat calm the whole way. It's less than 4,000 miles, so that's less and easier than going from Fort Lauderdale across to Monaco, which is about 4,500 nautical miles. You can see the yellow line right at the top there going into Hakodate. That's coming across from Alaska. We do have yachts come across from there. Adak is the last jumping point from Alaska, and it's about 1,800 miles over to Hakodate, which is about the same as Bermuda to the Azores. And getting in there and getting around. So if you're not going to go in by yacht, or you can't, or guests are coming to join the yacht, there's about 100 airports around Japan. About 50% of those are international airports. Major airlines in Japan, JAL and ANA, but all major airlines around the world fly to Japan. Most airports are private jet capable, and some have jet centers. There's an extensive and affordable domestic airline network as well throughout Japan. And then we also have the famous Shinkansen, the bullet train. And there's a map of the bullet train. It actually goes off to the left a little bit more. It's cut off right there. But you can get all over Japan very, very easily and very efficiently by the bullet train. The yellow line that runs there is the Tokaido Shinkansen. That goes from Tokyo to Osaka. And on certain days of the year, there's a bullet train leaving Tokyo for Osaka every 180 seconds. Every 180 seconds with 15 cars and over 1,000 people on board. That's certain days, travel days of the year, but on a normal day, probably every 5 or 6 minutes. And then when we get down into the big cities, you get local rail areas. And luckily, the Japanese give you a very easy, simple rail map to work from. This is the Greater Tokyo Rail Network, which always staggers everybody. There's 158 rail lines at the last count. They're building more all the time. Over 5,000 kilometers of tracks, 2,300 stations, over 40 million trips per day, just in the Greater Tokyo area. 45 of the 51 busiest train stations in the world are in Japan. And Shinjuku, which is right in the middle of Tokyo, is the biggest train station in the world. It's got over 210 exits, and 3.6 million people per day go through that train station. And that's like the population of New Zealand going through 5 times in 1 week, the whole population. So There's very advanced phone apps to get you around, in fact, and everything runs to the second, so it's pretty good. And now I'm going to talk about some yachting destinations, some nice pictures there, some pictures of southern Japan over up in the top left-hand corner. Below that, Yokohama, the Bay of Yokohama, which is one of our ports of entries. Below that, with the bridge on the left-hand side, bottom left is part of the inland sea. The middle picture is probably the worst water hazard in the world. I've played that golf course, and it's a fantastic place down by Nagasaki, which is Nagasaki City is pictured over on the top right. And then, of course, the iconic Mount Fuji. And we have a destinations map with basic destinations. There's year-round cruising in Japan, as you saw from the geographical size of Japan and the climatic areas. 5 main cruising regions. The yellow at the top is the Sea of Japan and Hokkaido in the north. The yellow area, the sort of browny yellow area below that is Tokyo to Osaka. Then we have the inland sea, which is the green area. That's 3,000 miles long with 3,000 islands. And then we have a blue area around Kyushu, and then a sort of pinky area down to the southern islands of Japan. So first of all, what I call Honshu South, which is the island of Honshu, Tokyo to Osaka route. And we often, yachts usually clear into Yokohama, and then they cruise that route. They take guests on in Yokohama, and they cruise that route all the way down through the Izu Islands, Atami, Mount Fuji, Nagoya, Ise, Wakayama, Narita, Osaka, and then go and base out of Kobe for their next trip. And then the inland sea of Japan, as I said before, it's got 3,000 islands and it's 300 miles long. And it's bordered, as you can see, by main islands, which are mountainous. So that not only cuts out the ocean swells from the Pacific Ocean, it also cuts out a lot of the weather as well. So you get microclimates all over there, and lots of anchorages and calm places. So we have yachts cruising for weeks on end through there, months on end actually, through there, and don't go to the same place twice. And then we have a kind of more of an adventure circuit up here, which is up the backside of Japan. That's an unfortunate phrase actually, but on the Japan seaside of Japan and up to Hokkaido. Lots of wild and wilderness areas, some great places to go. That's heading up there. Lots of wildlife and things like that. And that city that you see down in the bottom left-hand corner is Hakodate, right up in the northern island of Hokkaido. Then we have Kyushu. Kyushu, cruising around Kyushu is fabulous too. You're getting more into sort of warmer climates, more tropical climates, especially at the southern end of Kyushu. You have the fabulous city of Nagasaki. Over on the central left-hand side of your screen there, you see the city of Kagoshima with the Sakurajima volcano in the bay right outside the city. And then we move on to the southern islands. Kagoshima carries on down to Yakushima, which is a World Heritage Island. The entire island is a World Heritage site, and there's microclimates on there. There's usually a constant cloud cover right on that island. It's blue sky all the way around it, but it generates its own cloud cover from the moisture and the wetness actually on the island. But then all the way down to Setouchi in Amami Oshima, Okinawa, Zamami, Miyako, and Ishigaki Island, right at the very bottom, which is only about 100 miles off Taiwan. So it's a day run over to Taiwan for certain yachts. There's good regulations for yachts in Japan. There's no time limit for foreign vessels when they come to Japan. There's no food restrictions on arrival as long as you're not throwing them off the boat. Initial clearance into Japan is fairly normal as other places. Takes about half a day to go through all the departments. We have a thing called NACS here now that the agents can access, and we access that. That's electronic system, so we do all your clearances all around Japan from place to place electronically. There's a cruising permit system is in development. It's partially done, but it's still in development. Crew visas, visa waivers, and crew passes are all available to crew when they come to Japan. Extended crew pass system is in development for certain nationalities. And we're slowly easing regulations, and that's all gathering pace. And then we've got good yacht infrastructure and services, good marinas for yachts from 90 meters to 150 meters, up to 90 meters. We've got lots of marina space. We have good commercial docks as well. That central picture there is in Nagasaki, and that's a commercial dock. It's beautiful. You could sit and have a picnic on there. Agency and super yacht services with staff that have worked extensively on super yachts in Europe and Americas. We also have good shipyards and maintenance services. We can take any size yacht in the shipyards and they're immaculately clean. Yacht ports of entry are throughout Japan, and that's when a yacht is coming from overseas. And then simple and fast movement of parts and people and services around Japan. I showed you that infrastructure, the travel infrastructure before. It's easy to get parts, people, and services to different ends of Japan. Hammerhead Marina is a development in Yokohama. That's a picture there of Yokohama Bay. And we're still developing this marina. It's going to have 750 meters of linear dockage. We can already put boats there. As you see, Motor Yacht A was there. 90 meters of that will be stern to dockage as well. So 90 meters of that linear dockage will be able to be used as stern to for any size yacht, for any yacht that's ever been built. And then I'm going to flick through some visions of Japan, and we're going to go through these fairly quickly, but just to give you some visuals here. So festivals all over Japan, especially in the summertime, and a lot of yacht owners like to tailor their trips to the festivals. Japan's very cultural, as you probably know. The food is fantastic. Actually, a French guy that comes here quite a lot, he says French food is the best food in the world, but as long as it's cooked in Japan. Art is great in Japan. Contemporary and traditional stage shows, pop, everything we have here. Professional sports, they were the world champions in baseball a few times. We've held the Rugby World Cup, we've held the Football World Cup, and personal recreation is great in Japan as well. Skiing, surfing, hiking. You can relax in Japan. There's beautiful resorts, great onsens and hot springs. Cities are vibrant, crazy, clean, exciting, and safe. And the wilderness in Japan, Japan's an archipelago, so it's great to cruise the wilderness by yacht. The people are wonderful. They like to eat and drink and have fun. And the history in Japan is evident everywhere. We have great yacht infrastructure, as I already said. So please come to Japan. I've got one more slide. Thanks for listening. Over to you, Susie.
Thank you very much, Nigel. Honestly, that looks, I have to go back to Japan. I've been there once, but seeing it from the water side is a very different experience, and there's so much there. Leaving Japan, we're now going to Taiwan, and Captain Paul Brackley is going to greet us. Actually, Paul's in, I'm just saying he's in Hong Kong at the helm there, but his knowledge and experience of Taiwan is extensive. I first met Paul when I went to Taiwan on a super yacht Ambrosia, Beatty 65 meter. Paul was a captain, and we went cruising in the Penghu area, and it was the first super yacht to be given permission to cruise in that area. Paul started his career as a marine engineer and moved quickly on to being a super yacht captain. He's set up a company called Central Yachts, who offer design and project management to super yachts. And today he's going to give us the inside knowledge on Taiwan and the growth of the super yacht industry there and cruising. Over to you, Paul.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Susie. Okay, so I think most people don't really know anything about Taiwan. So we'll start with the flag. There we are. That's the Republic of China flag. And let's go into a little bit of history. It was originally called Isla Formosa, or Beautiful Island. Not to be used for navigation, as you will spot immediately. That is actually east up. But you see on the eastern side, strong mountains, high mountains, and then on the western side, the shallow coastal plain. Historically speaking, there have been three major peoples in China Taiwan for recent times. In the north was the Spanish, and the center was an early Chinese kingdom, and the south were the Dutch. More recently, there was Japanese occupation between 1895 and 1945. Going into the geology, quite interesting. So we're in the Pacific Rim of Fire. We have quite a big subduction zone here, which means we get quite a lot of volcanic activity, but not these nasty things. We don't get those at all. What we get is hot springs. And so we have, hot spring. And for some of you, you might be more interested in this. There we go, just to include everyone. What we do have, a bad feature of volcanism is the earthquakes. And this is not, this is a result of an earthquake. Buildings are very well built. They tend to topple and not actually collapse. Okay, the island is been inhabited since prehistoric times. The original inhabitants look like this. They still maintain their culture in the highlands. And if we look at some of the features, you might draw a parallel between certain other peoples. And in fact, these guys had boats, and it is believed that, well, not this boat, it's a little bit too small, but some boats went as far as the Marquise Islands. This is a theory that the original Aborigines from Taiwan went to the Marquise Islands 5,000 miles across the Pacific, and they created the Polynesian culture. So here we have some Marquise Islanders here, and I think, as you can see, that's very much Polynesian culture. And here we move on to show the Marquise Islands. This is a little boat I took across the Pacific, and it's out of our zone to talk about today, but this is Espiritu Santo and Marquise. Very beautiful area. Okay, right, let's get back to Taiwan. And so Taiwan has been Chinese since before recorded history. The Dutch, however, arrived in the early 17th century until they were removed in 1670. Oh, here we are. I think you can see this is the Dutch influence. This is Flemish bond, I think. Maybe someone can correct me. But they were removed from Taiwan by this gentleman here, Mr. Koshinga. He actually evicted the Dutch men, but the Dutch ladies, in fact, remained, which is why even today, sometimes in Taiwan, you will find children with red hair. Okay, there we go. Anyway, so it remained mainly Chinese control until 1895, when there was a shipwreck, a Japanese shipwreck. The sailors managed to escape ashore, but were then caught by the Aborigine inhabitants and apparently eaten. Not actually like this, so we'll just go to a bit of history. The real cannibalism in the Polynesian culture, as was seen in Marquise Islands, it was like an overground hungy. That is an oven. The square structure in the middle is an oven, and people actually cooked on there, sitting down. In the foreground, actually, is a hole in the ground. That was the prison. Anyway, so the Japanese took over the island by treaty in 1895, and this really led to a very rapid development of Taiwan. It really progressed much more quickly than mainland Japan. Mainland China. And also, along with the architectural developments, we see the beginnings of a marine culture. This is the beach in Kaohsiung in the early 19th century. So yeah, it shows these are the locals enjoying the beach. Okay, so Japan at the end of the Second World War, they left, and it became again China, Republic of China, led by this gentleman, Chiang Kai-shek. There was, okay, here's Chiang Kai-shek now. Yeah, there we go. So this period also was around the time of the Chinese Civil War. And it ended up that Chiang Kai-shek was in control of Taiwan. And it became basically a military dictatorship until the middle of the 1970s. And there we go. That's the middle of Taipei there. So it was a military dictatorship until the middle of the 1970s. And since then, it's been a liberal democracy. There we have the parliament there, as you can see. So, yeah. Okay, now if we're actually visiting Taiwan on a yacht, the first place you're likely to call is Kaohsiung. This is the center of yacht building in Taiwan, and it's a new, vibrant, very vibrant city. In fact, just today, I was reading that New York Times has recommended Kaohsiung as one of the top 100 places to visit in 2021, if you're lucky enough to get there. So Kaohsiung is a very big yacht building center in Asia. I think it's about the 6th largest in the world. They have, or they used to have a very popular yacht show every year. But anyway, it's now also developing as a super yacht berthing facility, and this is the center of Kaohsiung. It's on the right. We've got a new arts center. On the left, there are little art galleries, whatever. This came about. I'll just blow the trumpet here. There was a lot of reticence in Kaohsiung to get this done. So we actually formed a grassroots organization, Kaohsiung International Marina Development Association. And with this, we recruited a lot of local professors, shop holders, even some of the yacht builders. That's Howard down there on the right. And with this lobby group, we were able to talk to the local authorities, and we managed to get available. This is a public facility. Any yacht can come in here and use this. So that's a 110-meter dry dock, extremely clean, and in actually part of a tourist area of Kaohsiung. So that's been made available for yachts. It's quite a good facility. We also have now got this beautiful center part of town is available for super yachts. You can get 6 super yachts up to 70 meters there, or 1 super yacht of 110 meters. My old boss is actually installing electricity and water there. So very soon that will be functioning super yacht port. One thing to be aware of, I've visited a few times and I've had a few friends come there. If you're using local yacht agents, be very, very cautious. They're used to dealing with very small yachts, and they're not used to the rules and regulations of large yachts. So if you're coming, check your pilot books and engage a ship agent is probably the best thing to do. Okay, one of the main things for coming to Kaohsiung would be refit. Now, okay, the facilities are, the commercial facilities are a little bit lacking, shall we say. However, the big advantage of Kaohsiung is it's very easy for international contractors to come in. The locals are in fact very skilled in stainless steel work, painting, cabinetry, all of the little subcontractors that go into making a yacht. Just the facility itself isn't so good. So this is actually an ABB Azipod. This is the first time this was actually serviced anywhere in the world. And this was done with excellent cooperation from the local shipyard. Okay, if I'm not actually, obviously, I'm not an agent for visiting yachts, but there's some information in a number of slides just coming up. So this is the new marina. I can put you in touch with the people who can help you more here. Just explains where you are. You're very much in the center of Asia. I think this is a place where super yacht owners might base their yacht between cruises, because it has all you need in terms of maintaining your yacht. It's a very safe place. Large yachts can get here. It's a very good place, a very good safe place for crew. And okay, it's nice. It's not maybe as sophisticated as Japan, but it's certainly a very good place for crew for rest and recreation in between cruises with the boss. Okay, so yeah, there's golf for the yacht captains. There's mountain biking. There's spas. There's shopping. Not as good as Hong Kong. There are good restaurants, but again, not as good as Tokyo or Hong Kong. Okay, but the facilities are very good for refit. And just as a little note for these times, it's also possible for you to sign on and sign off crew, which is pretty unique in this region. Okay, so if you're in the region and you need to get crew signed off, it is possible to go into Kaohsiung, and there are people who can help you sign off and sign on crew. So that's very useful at the moment. Okay, all right, everyone either speaks English or knows someone who speaks English. It's very low tax, very easy for customs, and usually for immigration. And it's very welcome and friendly people. I think it's all been voted for years as the safest place in the world to visit. Okay, for crew, yeah, there's some really nice little places. This is just north of Kaohsiung. Is very quaint. It's not the south of France. Okay. Just north of Kaohsiung is Tainan, and there's a dock here that can take Superyachts. The tide is not very substantial, so it's under a meter, so it's not too bad on the fenders. Some of those places in Japan here on a commercial dock, maybe you've got to be a little bit more cautious. So, but things are developing. So 8 years ago, we identified this spot here, which is a greenfield site, and 8 years later, there's now a lot of building has been going on in the background, but there's also a marina that can take up to 100-foot yachts, which is quite good. Okay, also in Tainan, just going back to a bit of history, this was the site of the where the Chinese Navy came and removed the Dutch. And this is the pirate ship of Koxinga. It's a very faithful, very authentic recreation of a fighting vessel of the 17th century. Okay, now we go to perhaps the most beautiful part of Kaohsiung, Pungo Islands. This is where we took Susie nearly 10 years ago. And the main port there, Makung. Okay, this I think is maybe a bit deceptive. Yeah, the water is quite clean, but it's really not quite as beautiful as this. It's good for fishing, it's good for diving, but it is a little bit remote. So there's Ambrosia. We had to anchor a long way out, as in many places there's a military facility. Small yacht able to get in, but I think as you'll see, getting on and off the yacht is really not something that many over guests will do. So yeah, for the larger yachts, you have to use your tender, and there's Susie on board on our limo tender leaving Makung Harbour. So the reason to come to most people want to come to Pungo is diving or the food. And there's our chefs in the food market. There's a lot of very good seafood apparently. Okay, that is not Pungo. That is Ile Saint Michel. And I've been told that if you like the agneau pré salé, there is some on Pungo. But I've not seen it. So okay, going north, the other area you can go to. Oh, sorry, this is Genesis. Yeah, we managed to get that on a public dock again. You don't want to be staying there too long, but that was enough for our guests to get ashore and go to some of the restaurants. Okay, so going up to the north, Taipei, really all of that western coast there's really very few places to stop. Taipei, of course, the capital, and up in Taipei, quite close to the east of Taipei is Keelung, which has a marina, mainly for smaller yachts, but we were able to get Ambrosia in here, and also Genesis when we did a tour of the harbour. It's today on this photograph, it's very calm, but you have to be very careful. Of course, we're in the Pacific coast, and we get the swells rolling in, and you can be breaking your lines in there, so you have to be prepared for that. The coast, yep, very beautiful. All of this east coast is quite stunning. Very good for fishing, but you have to be prepared always to run round back the other side. This is what you should all be waiting for. This is a fantastic facility. It's a 110-meter synchro lift covered with an air draft of over 30 meters and 6 covered sheds of quality I've not seen anywhere else in the world. This, we hope, will be available for refit in the near future. But anyone with a mega yacht in region that needs to have a very safe, very secure haul out, so then this facility is certainly worth looking at. Okay, I'm here as a yacht captain, and one other thing we just thought we'd mention is clearing into China as a super yacht. So I've done 3 visits to Sanya, which is probably the most likely place anyone will visit as it's opened up recently. First time 2005, and this was an unannounced visit. We were running from a typhoon, and we ended up in the north of the island, just sheltering from a typhoon, rather nasty one. It is now being developed as the holiday zone for all of China. It's China's answer to Hawaii. I'm not sure about that. I've not been to Hawaii. But anyway, Sanya I've been to on 2 further occasions. And this is really the playground for the very wealthy Chinese. And on the first visit I went there, we were able to anchor. The clearing process was a little bit fraught. The immigration insisted that the owners came ashore to visit them, and the owner was insisting that he would not go to meet the immigration. So we had to resolve that by arranging for the owner to go ashore and by chance meet the immigration authorities, but it all went quite smoothly. This is Sanya, but there is another quieter marina a little bit to the east, which is Lingshui. And this is when we arrived there on a 55 meter a couple of years ago for Chinese New Year. And the welcome was much, much changed. In the 5 years between my first visit and the second, the immigration and marine authorities could not be more welcoming. Really, a clearing took us 30 minutes, clearing out took 30 minutes. So things are changing quite quickly. Some things for the good, some for the worse. So now we're only allowed to cruise during days of sunlight, and you have to have a pilot on board. But the coast here is quite beautiful, and so let's entry. And oh, just to mention, local knowledge is very important. There is quite a cross current in here. Before you go to any of these places, they're possibly not so well designed. So sometimes you have currents. If you've got a bit of local knowledge, you can avoid some problems. Okay. And then we've got a final little bit of coastline, and it's very beautiful. But the problem is there's a big Chinese military base just behind there, which is why, the cruising is a little bit restricted at the moment. But it's only going to get better, and I can certainly recommend going to see it, and or basing yourself in Kaohsiung while you're in the area. Okay, but back to you, Susie. Sorry if that was a bit quick.
Thank you, Paul. And you're right, Taiwan is not on the cruising map, but it should be. And, it's interesting, Taiwan is known for building boats, but not many of the population are actually enjoying boats. So, and I think the boat shows showed that people were interested, and that, I think there'll be a growing population of boat users in Taiwan. And now we come to our next panelist. We're moving from Taiwan to Hong Kong. We're going to be greeted by Mike Simpson, and Mike is arrived in Hong Kong in 1984 by yacht. He's a pioneer in the Asian yachting scene, and Mike set up Simpson Marine in '84, and the brokerage and service company has grown to now be having 100 staff in 11 offices around the region. Mike has 2 passions in life. One is flying vintage aircraft, and the other is sailing and boating. And Mike is talented. He speaks, he says, a little Mandarin, and that means that he's able to engage with a whole new boating community. Mike, over to you to talk about Hong Kong and China. Thank you.
They use a picture, almost be our cover, San Lorenzo.
Mike, have we switched the mic on?
Turn.
There
There we are. Good.
there we go.
Yeah.
The wonders of technology.
Yes, the wonders of technology. Okay, so thank you very much, Paul and Nigel, for giving us a very interesting background to what's north of here. But I want to try and introduce a little bit about super yachts in Hong Kong and South China. Move to the first slide, right. So I'm going to cover this. Basically a few maps just to show the context. I'm going to introduce viewers from further afield to the area, so they have a bit of an idea of where these places are. Then I'll talk about Hong Kong, and after that I will discuss the Greater Bay Area, which is adjacent to Hong Kong, more of that later. And then I'm going to speak about a little bit more about Hainan. So here we are. This is Asia, to give you the context, as it were, of what I'm going to talk about. We've got Hong Kong, as you see, adjacent to China, is part of China, and you can see Hainan there. So the area inside that red square is the area I'm going to talk about. And just for reference, I show there as well the distances to different locations in the area, as the others have done with their slides. So Hong Kong is very well situated for cruising, for any yachts going through. So anyway, here we are. This is Hong Kong. It's a great place for cruising, and it's been quite amazing this year with the lockdowns from COVID-19. The number of people who've been taking to the water, new boaters taking to the water and discovering what is available right on their doorsteps. Now that people can't fly away, they've been forced to look around them. And this is one great thing. I have to say, if you're trying to choose a place to be locked down, and I can't say that many people would actually choose anything rather than no lockdown, but if you are forced to lock down, this is a great place to do it. Fantastic cruising areas, beautiful places to go and visit. And you can see here there are a few yacht clubs and marinas, but not many of them, I'm afraid, cater for super yachts. And in fact, at the moment, there's only one yacht club, and that is in Lantau. So you can see that on the map there, Lantau Yacht Club, that has any space for super yachts visiting Hong Kong. More of that later. Okay, next slide. So this is just to give you an idea. This is a few shots of Hong Kong, what I've been showing you there. Victoria Harbour, I think everyone has a certain idea about Hong Kong. We've got this wonderful harbour here. It's, as has been pointed out by some, it could be the Monaco of the East if the Hong Kong government could just recognise it and help us to open up more facilities. It's a beautiful setting. And you have a number of marinas and yacht clubs. Aberdeen Marina Club, that's where my office is. You can see there, we've got a little note up there saying full, no space. And you can go down, you see Gold Coast Yacht Club, another very nice yacht club here that does have a number of berths for super yachts, full. I mentioned Lantau Yacht Club, there we have it. This was recently opened, only opened, I think last year, at the end of 2019. And anyway, it's been reconfigured. It was a yacht club before, but they've reconfigured this as a super yacht marina, and they have 38 berths available, we're told, at the latest count. Here we are again. So I'm just showing you the rest of it. So we're looking at Club Marina Cove. This is a long-established marina in Hong Kong, and they have some berths there for super yachts, but once again, full. Then you have the Hong Kong Marina. Again, it's a long-established marina, but full, no space. And then now at the bottom, quite interesting, you'll see Kwun Tong and Tsing Yi. Now, these are not marinas, but these are typhoon shelters. Well, certainly a Tsing Yi is a typhoon shelter, but also it is essentially commercial shipyards, which have been taken over to some extent by yachts and yacht businesses. And then in Kwun though, is a typhoon shelter. Now, Hong Kong is in a typhoon zone, and we do get hit quite badly sometimes. So there are a number of typhoon shelters around Hong Kong. And these were intended for small commercial vessels to shelter during bad weather. But since there are no marina berths available, apart from in the new marina there, which I mentioned in Lantau, and so therefore the Marine Department in Hong Kong has allowed yachts to use the typhoon shelters. And here you see now a motley collection of yachts which have anchored up in the typhoon shelters. No mooring blocks, but people improvise it, and they do manage to put barges in there with heavy anchors. And so this is an improvised, we can say, yacht mooring facility. Okay, next slide. So you can see now some of the best cruising areas. There are some beautiful places to go cruising, as I mentioned. These are just names to you, but Double Haven, Mears Bay, you can see beautiful beaches. There are about 260 islands in Hong Kong, and so a great place to go cruising around, to anchor off. And certainly for smaller boats, you can spend a long time cruising around Hong Kong and without exploring every creek, every beach, and every island. And so it's not a bad cruising area, even for a big yacht as well, to cruise around. There are some nice places to visit here. And you can see there's Sai Kung, which is the area where Susie hangs out most of the time. Okay, then about Hong Kong. So basically this is, I put here Asia's main yachting center, but I think certainly that's for, let's say, smaller yachts. We're talking about there the mainstream yachts. I think for yachts and yachting, yacht racing and so on, it's a very, very active yachting center. Population of 7.5 million people. Coastline, a lot of coastline because of a lot of islands, 465 kilometers and 263 islands. Interesting point is there are 10,000 odd registered vessels in Hong Kong, but only about 4,000 licensed berths of various kinds. So it gives you the light of the land here. It means that there's 6,000 vessels without an official home, and so people have to improvise. This is Hong Kong at the moment. Very, very short of berths. There are approximately, by our calculation, around 100 yachts over 30 meters currently berthed in Hong Kong. So overall, you can say that the challenges are limited berthing space, limited refit and repair facilities, lack of STCW qualified super yacht crew. We move on to the next slide. So this is more detail of what's available. And you can see these are the marinas, gives you a bit of an idea about the total berths they have. And as you can see, once again, only Lantau Yacht Club actually has berths which are available. And one interesting point as well is that the marinas that are in Hong Kong are membership only. So it means unless you're a member, then generally, even if they had berths available, they would be reserved for members. Lantau Yacht Club, however, are up to allowing visiting yachts to come in. In fact, they're very happy to have visiting yachts to come in. So once again, roughly 100 yachts over 30 meters registered in Hong Kong, out of around 10,000 total registered vessels here. Okay, now refits, shipyards or repair yards. There's not a lot to offer here. Hong Kong Shipyard in Qingyi, that's the place I mentioned, that's a commercial area. I showed you the photograph. Is the only shipyard really capable of lifting large yachts here. They've got a synchro lift, a 90-meter synchro lift, and they can, they say, lift up to 3,000 tons. But generally speaking, you can say in Hong Kong there are limited repair facilities for super yachts. Next slide. Okay, the formalities for foreign flagged super yachts. Now, at the moment under COVID, you can imagine that things are very difficult, and private commercial super yachts cannot visit Hong Kong unless the crew have Hong Kong ID cards or work visas. I'm afraid that's the situation at the moment, so it's extremely difficult. We have a yacht on its way at the moment, a 45-meter yacht, and well, for example, the crew cannot fly here to receive the yacht, so we've had to take instruction from them, videos showing them, you know, the whole yacht walkthrough, and we've therefore had to train up our own people and a local crew with local licenses to operate the vessel when it arrives, to commission and recommission and operate the vessel when it arrives, and that will be taken round to the Lantau Yacht Club. Anyway, once in Hong Kong, super yachts are treated like commercial vessels, and they're allowed to come in and berth, and they're only supposed to sort of relocate if they have some technical reason. They have to go to a shipyard for repair, etc. But you can get a permit to navigate in Hong Kong waters, and but you have to apply for that on each occasion, and then a valid insurance policy. But that goes without saying. That's the local rule. Yachts must have a Grade 1 Hong Kong pleasure vessel license holder on board. So in other words, you need to have someone who's got the local license on board, because that is obviously someone who has the knowledge of the local rules and regulations and knows the coastline in theory. Then foreign crew, they can, if they're staying here for any length of time, they can commute their existing licenses and certificates of competency for a local license, but they still need to take a local knowledge test. And then visiting yachts can remain for basically 6 months in the year. Okay, now that's the end of Hong Kong. I'm now moving on to the Greater Bay Area. Now, I should put this in context because, of course, as we all know, it's been well publicized recently that Hong Kong is very much now part of China, and China is very keen to integrate Hong Kong and Macau, the other special administrative region, into the mainland. And with this in mind, they've developed this, they had this project there, which is the Greater Bay Area. And this is an economic zone that's been created, which comprises 9 cities on the mainland and Hong Kong and Macau. And this is the intention. So this is why I'm mentioning this, because it's very much part of the future of Hong Kong. And I'll show you why in a moment. So there we are, a close-up of where this is. You can see the 9 cities there, as sort of mentioned. Those are the 9 cities on the mainland. And of main importance are Zhuhai, which is where there's a lot of shipbuilding, and there are some repair and possibilities for refit. And then you have Shenzhen, which is a real hub. It's dynamic and probably the most important yachting hub in southern China. It's modern, vibrant. It's called the Silicon Valley of the East. And anyway, it has quite a nice cruising area as well. And as you'll see, it adjoins Hong Kong. You know, the land, what's called the new territories of Hong Kong, they extend over into Shenzhen, and the cruising areas of Hong Kong as well extend into Shenzhen. Of course, there's an invisible border there, but it's a border that is policed, and you need to get permission to cross the border in the usual ways of clearing out and clearing in. Okay, so now we're looking at Shenzhen. I mentioned that Shenzhen is the best sort of cruising area in this Greater Bay Area. It adjoins Hong Kong, and you can see there that there are a number of marinas. Now that's quite important because the intention is that Shenzhen and the Greater Bay Area will be integrated with Hong Kong, and that yachts which are licensed in Hong Kong will be able to cruise into these areas. Now that's been on the drawing board, shall we say, for quite some time, and at present, as I understand it, only Shenzhen Bay Marina, which you can see here, is able to take yachts, to receive yachts, and clear them into China. So if you want to go cruising in this area, then that at the moment seems to be the only place that you can actually clear into China. But the reality is that you can find ways to move yachts. We have to. We deliver yachts across from here into Shenzhen, but getting clearance and making the arrangements is very much something that you have to work out on a case-by-case basis. Because as you can see that from Shenzhen Bay, It's quite a long way to the other area, which is the main cruising area, which is where you see Longcheer Yacht Club, and you can see Financial Street Marina. Now, I mentioned Financial Street and Longcheer. They both have berths for the super yachts, and as does the Shenzhen Airport Marina and Shenzhen Bay Marina. So they have space. We don't have very many berths apart from in Lantau. And so it's interesting for us in Hong Kong that there are berths available and more marina projects on the go. So for the future, this is something which is very important as this becomes more and more integrated as an integrated economic zone. Okay, just to give you an idea then, these are the marinas that I'm talking about. So Longcheer Yacht Club, home of the China Cup. The sailors, it's a pretty well-known location. And this is in what's called Daya Bay. The Daya Bay is maybe more notorious for its atomic power station. But anyway, it's actually a very nice cruising area, a very large cruising ground. And you have then Shenzhen Bay Marina. I mentioned that is the marina which can accommodate yachts clearing into China from Hong Kong. But in fact, it is, and then we've got so 5 berths available there, which is obviously good to know. And then you have Shenzhen Airport Marina with 5 berths available as well. So there are berths for big yachts available across the border in China. All right, so some of the cruising areas in Shenzhen, you see a very similar kind of coastal scenery to Hong Kong. You've got Daya Bay, you've got Saichung and Xiaojia Island. All of these in basically in Daya Bay, though, is the best cruising area. A number of islands there and facilities in the marinas. Otherwise, very few facilities that you could use on shore. But anyway, places to visit if you intend to go cruising around that area. All right, so just in summary then, the Greater Bay Area is a special economic zone, I mentioned, a population of 72 million people. So it's a huge area, huge mass of population. And the Chinese government has tremendous ambitions for the development of this Greater Bay area. The Shenzhen marinas, I mentioned the 4 marinas with good facilities, which are quite adequate for super yachts. The Shenzhen, the Longcheer, you've got the Yuen Airport Marina, Shenzhen Bay Marina, and Financial Street. Currently, as far as we can calculate, there are around 10 yachts over 30 meters in Shenzhen. So not many, but there are reasons for that. As you'll see, the challenges are very high import tax. Currently, it is, we've worked it out, around 42% for those who want to pay it. So it's a lot of money to pay on a large yacht if you bring it into China. Inconsistent inter-province cruising policies. It means if you want to cruise from one part of China to another, that is, it's an issue. And the rules tend to be not very clear, and they tend to change, which makes it quite difficult. I mean, Paul mentioned a bit earlier about being in Hainan and having to be sort of home before dark. I mean, rules like this that come in that are really sort of hard to fathom out, but you have to be constantly sort of checking up to see what the rules are to make sure that you're up to date and current with the latest rules. A relative lack of qualified crew. And this is a problem, as we mentioned a bit earlier, for properly qualified, certainly STCW qualified crew, very few, and limited refit and repair facilities. I will come to it. There are, in fact, a couple of shipyards that can do refits and repairs, but I'll come to that. Anyway, Shenzhen, I've mentioned, that shows you the number of berths, and Shenzhen Bay, Longcheer, Financial Street, and the Yuen Airport all have berths available. Okay, refit. Now, Haysea, they are a shipyard that builds yachts. They build quite large yachts there too. And they have the ability to do repairs and refits on yachts up to, they claim, I think 65 meters. Kingship as well quite well known. They've built a number of super yachts. It's a shipyard there in Zhuhai. This photograph at the bottom, by the way, this shows Zhuhai. It's a vibrant city, and both Heisi and Kingship are in this in Zhuhai. Now, Kingship also can offer refits and repairs for steel and aluminium yachts, also up to 60 meters. Okay, now just to give you again the perspective, you can see now we come on to Hainan, which Paul has already mentioned. Now, the intention of the central government is that they want to develop yachting, or more correctly, marine tourism. This is the way they term it. And that includes cruise ships in normal times. But anyway, on the back of this, there is a tremendous impact on the future growth of yachting in China possible. Because what this means is, with Hainan, they're looking at, they've established a free trade zone there, which means that eventually yachts will be able to be imported into Hainan without paying the customary taxes, which is obviously a very attractive idea. So you can see where it is, and the intention of the central government is to integrate eventually Hainan and this free trade zone and the developments in Hainan with the Greater Bay Area and Hong Kong and Macau. So that the intention of the central government is that southern China will become an important sort of, let's say, yachting hub. And again, they're looking at encouraging overseas companies to come and set up shop down in this free trade zone in Hainan. And already a number of companies have. We have our own, we have already set up down there as well as part of the free trade zone. And of course, you then get all the benefits, and it includes low taxation on the company. And also it does include you know, the potential. At the moment, the rules are not 100% clear, but it does intend that yachts will be able to import into Hainan without paying the customary taxes. Next one. So this is now Hainan. Now, of main interest is the southern part of Hainan. So Sanya is in the south part of Hainan. It's mostly of interest because the climate is better down there. There's quite a difference between the north and south, and the climate is good down here. And you have the beaches, the main tourist hotels, and so on. I say tourist hotels, in fact, very high-end hotels. As Paul mentioned, Sanya does attract the wealthy from all over China. And in fact, it's a winter playground for them, you can say. A lot of wealthy Chinese from the north, they send their families down here. They have second homes down here, maybe flats, or they will stay in they've got a nice villa down here, or they have yachts down here. They have, and of course, they have a lot of very smart hotels. And so it's a bit of a congregating place for the wealthy, the elite in China during the winter months. Okay, so you can see here you've got you see Phoenix Island down there in the bottom left. Now that area, that part of Sanya is really where the free trade zone is. So that Phoenix Island, they're looking at actually developing some sort of marina there for super yachts at some point. And already they're saying that they can provide a berthing for a few super yachts there on Phoenix Island. Already in Visun Yacht Club, they've got a few berths, and that is a clear for port clearance. You can clear in Visun. And the other place is Clearwater Bay, which you can see up on the top right of the this map. And the cruising areas are really from the south. You've got Yalong Bay, a lot of very smart hotels around there. It's a very nice area. You've got, it's worth mentioning Wuzhizhou. You'll see that in a second. We'll see some photographs of it. Very good diving there. So this is one of the attractions, if you like, of this coast. It's not a bad place to go diving. There are plenty of nice beaches, but it's a fairly exposed coastline. And as Paul mentioned, there is a Navy base, which is just off Yalong Bay, which does appear to be a strange place to put a a top secret Navy base, but it is there right opposite Yarong Bay, and that does to some extent restrict movement. They certainly don't like yachts straying too close there. Okay, so here we can see a little bit more. You've got Sanya Clearwater Bay. This is a big marina development and a big residential development too. And they have 7 berths available for super yachts. I think up to, what size is, I think up to about 50, 60 meters. You've got 5 berths available in Visun Yacht Club. This is right in downtown of Sanya town. And then Sanya Serenity Marina, that is where we have an office actually at the moment in Sanya Serenity, and there they have 10 berths available for the super yachts. Right, cruising areas off Sanya. I mentioned Wuzhi, and I think you can see that that island up in the top right-hand corner there, and there's some good diving around there. You've got Clearwater Bay, which I mentioned is where they have the marina, that very nice marina development, and Haichong Bay and Yalong Bay. I mentioned lots of nice beaches there and smart hotels. So there are places to visit there, but anyway, it's certainly worth a look. And obviously, Paul has more intimate knowledge of this, having cruised there. Okay, so just in summary, southernmost city of Hainan Island. This is the China Yachting Hub. It's a very small population living there, but as I said, in the winter it fills up, and it just really takes off. You can say from about November through till after Chinese New Year, roughly March. It is very, very busy, but for the rest of the year, it's generally very quiet. And certainly the intention of the government now is to develop Sanya as a year-round business center. And that is the intention now, and a lot of projects now on the go to make it a year-round resort island. At the moment, as far as we can calculate, there are around 15 yachts over 30 meters based in Sanya, Hainan. So the challenges, so you can see that the free trade zone policy is not yet fully in place. There are not that many super yacht berths, and the clubs are members only, and there's a lack of qualified workers as well in most cases for doing repair work on yachts, and there are limited refit and repair facilities. So this, in summary, again, is these are the berths available. So the refit facilities, there are some refit repair facilities there. Visun Tuscany. This is a joint venture with Visun, the marina I mentioned down there. They have up to 100-ton lift there, but in other words, they can look after smaller yachts up to 100 feet. Serenity Coast, they have up to 80 feet. But for super yachts, there is a super yacht shipyard planned, and it's pending government approval at the moment, with capacity for 60, I believe, yeah, I think up to 60 meters, up to 3 60-meter yachts for refit and repair at any one time. And that's intended in the Sanya port area. Right, so in summary, this is about the free trade zone, Sanya. You can see that, okay, it was mooted in 2018 by President Xi Jinping. And the overall plan was finally confirmed only in June of 2020, and the full implementation is planned for 2025. That means the full implementation of zero tariffs, import duty, import tax, consumption taxes, and so on. Anyway, at the moment, yachts applying for this to benefit from the scheme must register as charter operators. This is, as I mentioned, in line with this intention that it should be to promote marine tourism, but we're led to understand that in fact this will be broadened to cover yachts, privately owned yachts as well. But anyway, more of that if you're interested. We have a lot of more sort of detailed information on that. So we got our certification as in the free trade zone in last year. and our first yachts are going to be imported in there in the early part of this year. So we'll know more after we've gone through the process, but we've gone through all the certification, and it'll be interesting to see what happens. As I mentioned, there are two ports of entry at the moment in Sanya, Visun Yacht Club and Clearwater Bay Marina at the moment. Okay, so these are the conclusions. It's a rather fast run through this very important part of Asia, which is developing fast. And I think you'll see why I attached, if you like, to this summary of Hong Kong, attached to this the Greater Bay Area and Hainan, because I think they have to be seen increasingly as one area. And I think certainly in the future, that is the intention of the central government, and so it will happen. So estimated that there are roughly 130 yachts above 30 meters currently located in southern China, if we take an account of Hong Kong, the Greater Bay Area and Hainan. As I mentioned, Hong Kong is the most active yachting center in East Asia. Sanya has big potential as a center for super yachts in the coming years. I think with the benefits that are now sort of becoming apparent, it will attract people. And already we've seen that there, according to the authorities down there in Sanya, they already have about 40 applications for visits by super yachts during this year. So this is what they claim, that they have already 40 applications. At the moment with COVID-19, I have to say that it's pretty much impossible. We had a yacht that we were trying to get down there for Chinese New Year, and it was so complicated in the end that we just had to give it up. It meant effectively we had to have a Hong Kong crew. That meant either a crew or with either Hong Kong ID or Hong Kong work permits and work visas rather. And they had to be on the yacht to take it down there. Now, this foreign crew would not be allowed in. And it meant when they got there, they would have to leave the yacht, and there were various tests they had to do before they left. And when they got there, they would have to go ashore and do 2 weeks quarantine. And then once they'd done their quarantine, they could come on board, or we could get a local Chinese crew, if we could find a qualified one, to come on board and take over, provided they'd gone through the usual tests and checks before they went on board. Anyway, it just proved to be very, very problematic. And to ship a yacht directly into China, well, is also very, very difficult at the moment. Certainly for a big yacht, it's we were advised, we've tried, different authorities with different at different times advised not to consider shipping a big yacht directly in. It's best to sort of take it in on its own bottom. But then, as I mentioned, you've got all the problems with crew at the moment. So the challenge is limited repair and refit shipyards at the moment. I mentioned, Kingship and Haysea, they have some facilities there. There will be, we hope, a better facility there in Sanya in the near future, within the next 2 years anyway. There are a limited number of qualified yacht crew. There are plans to set up academies there to train up crew who could be then qualified for super yachts. High import tax in mainland China. Well, we hope that that will be mitigated by the new rules there in Hainan once the free trade zone is fully effective. Certainly by 2025, we're promised, and we hope before then. There are a small number of super yacht marinas, but many plans for more. I think once yachts start to come into Hainan, and I think that they're going to start coming in, then there are a number of projects to develop further marinas around the coast of Hainan. So that's the end of my little speech. Anyway, I hope that was interesting. Look, one thing I would say is, just to wrap up, that one of the most difficult things here is actually to get clear answers from the authorities on exactly what the rules are. And you can ask 10 people and they'll give you pretty much 10 different answers. And so I don't guarantee that what I've told you is 100% right, but as far as we can gather, it is correct at the moment, but it does change on a regular basis. And so it's always worth checking with someone who is in the area and to get the latest information before you actually set about trying to to bring a yacht into Hong Kong or into southern China.
Mike, thank you. You know, that's invaluable information because none of that information is available on the website, or, you know, it's hard to access. So what you've given us is an interesting overview. I think it could take much more than this session to cover what you've got. But there is a question which actually comes from Hilary Buckman, Ocean Media, saying, and I think this is where you were sort of finishing off, can international flagged yachts enter China? And if so, what is the process? And that's what you're saying. It's not an easy process, and it's not straightforward at the moment.
Well, at the moment, as I said, it is very, very problematic because of COVID-19. So I think all I can say is that that's the way it is, and things are changing. So, I mean, just to give you an idea, I mean, we were checking there to see, for example, with Kingship, if a yacht wanted to go there to have a refit, how long would it take to process the yacht to bring it in? Now, they say that they have the connections there. They could probably arrange that within 24 hours for a yacht coming from Hong Kong, just to give you an idea. So these things can be arranged. If you have someone with the local connections there, you can make these things happen. But at the moment with COVID-19, I'm afraid, it's just, you can just say that the barriers are up, and it's just not even worth really thinking about it. I think anyway, as I said, it's something that can change by the day, as we know with COVID-19, but under normal times, it is difficult enough, but now with COVID, it's extremely difficult. But it's possible, and certainly there are people who can advise, and we can certainly help with that.
Okay, and there's one other question from David Robinson asking, there was an announcement saying that there'll be expansion of Aberdeen Marina area, and will there be increased area for super yachts in that area?
Well, not that we know of at the moment. You may have heard that the famous Jumbo restaurant, which is iconic and a landmark in the Aberdeen typhoon shelter, that has now been given, I believe, to Ocean Park. Has been given to Ocean Park. What they intend to do with it is not clear. Whether they leave it where it is, or whether they sort of try and operate it from the Ocean Park area, which we hope. If they do that, that could clear more space, possibly for berths within the typhoon shelter. But I mean, that's still not clear. We hope that is the case, but I haven't heard of any more space at the moment. It would be very good if we could, because as we know, there's a dire shortage of berths, and even the fishing boats in the typhoon shelter are gradually being replaced by white-hulled yachts. And just anywhere where there's any spare bit of water, any space in Hong Kong, it's filling up. And for the simple reason that there's a dire shortage of marina berths in Hong Kong, which is an old story we've been talking about for many years, Susie, haven't we?
Yeah, that's true. Well, the discussions will continue, but I think I better wrap it up now. So I want to thank our panelists for their presentations. There was less question time, but the panelists had more to say, I think. And next week, we move on to Southeast Asia, where we have 3 new panelists: Scott Walker, Gordon Fernandez, and Andy Shorten, who will be joining us to talk about their regions of Singapore, Thailand, and Indonesia. And I'd like to thank APSA members, for which we have 110 APSA members, and it's about connecting our services to the Asia Pacific region. And I hope that APSA can continue to grow. And we're going to be doing more events over the year to celebrate the 10th anniversary. Nigel, do you have any final comment, please?
Just thank you for the panelists, and thank you for everybody that attended. We had well over 100 people watching, so that's great. I hope you learned something about Asia, and join APSA if you have an intention to do business over here. And thank you again, and see you next week for 3 great areas and 3 great speakers. I know them, all 3 of them very well, and they're very, very good. So we'll see you next week.
Thank you very much, and see you next week. Bye.